one of the directions my laboratory is really moving right now is what we call social neuroscience, which is just, brains have always traditionally been studied in isolation. Like, here's how the visual system works, here's how hearing works, and so on. But in fact, so much of the brain's circuitry has to do with social interaction. So much of it, and that's been difficult to study until recently. And so one of the experiments I'm setting up is going to the most violent neighborhoods in Chicago and doing neuroimaging experiments on gang members there, these very high risk youth, essentially all of whom have been in and out of the prisons, many of whom have murder charges, things like this, to figure out these things about how does the context you're embedded in change decision making, and most importantly, how can you actually optimize community intervention programs? So a colleague of mine started a program called Ceasefire Chicago, and what he discovered was the way to tamp down violence in these neighborhoods is make sure that the youth are very aware that their community elders are watching them and know what's going on, because it's well known that any of these guys will commit acts of violence in front of their peers, but they won't do it if their grandmother's watching. And that was fascinating to me because, it's the same hardware, but it's running a different software program depending on who's watching you. And so that's, essentially completely unexplored. So what we're doing is we're setting these things up in the scanner so you've got a high-risk youth and he's playing some sort of game in the scanner against someone else through the video screen, and it's one of these games where you can act aggressively. The other person steals some money from you and you steal money from them, and you can really sort of tease out people's aggression in these circumstances. But what we've done is set up this video feed so they can see that they're either being watched by their buddy that they came with, or they're being watched by a community elder, a former gang member who's now out of gangs and someone they respect. And the question is, how does that change their behavior and why? What's going on in their brain?